Yes, sir.
Yes, he did.
Well, if you don't know what fair is, you can't make it look
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
Thank you very much for joining us for this edition of Donnybrook, the last of the year. We hope to make it a great one. Let's meet the panelists, starting with Wendy Wiese, the Hall of Famer from the Big 550 KTRS. We took him off the exclusion list. He's Joe Holleman from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Ray Hartmann, you'll find him on Substack. He's the founder of the Riverfront Times, and from the St. Louis American, where he edits the paper and has a great sports column, Alvin Reid. Now, there's a fun little thing that you movie fans out there might enjoy, and that is, Wendy Wiese, that Bradley Cooper, the director of Maestro, has stolen the longtime music for the credits on this show and used them in the credits for Maestro.
His own credits. I mean, did he call you?
No.
I didn't hear from him. I don't think 9PBS heard from him. We were watching it. I was watching it, and I then started looking at my phone, as we usually do, and I heard the Donnybrook credits. It was the most disorienting thing. I just kind of looked up, but I thought, yes.
Well, that is, of course, Candide's Overture by Leonard Bernstein in the New York Philharmonic. Long distance from Francis Howell High School, Joe, where Francis Howell has again been in the news, this time because the school board decided to take away a curriculum put together by the Southern Poverty Law Center, which was intended to teach African-American history. And they voted this week to rescind that curriculum. And then 3,000 students got involved. They wrote their signatures on petitions. And now the school board says, okay, we will have a curriculum for African-American history in the fall. Kids will be able to take it, but it's not going to be provided by the Southern Poverty Law Center. What do you think?
Well, I think it started out where it seems to me that the school board did the wrong thing for the right reason, which they called into question much needed courses on black literature and black history in the United States, courses that most districts, my guess would be, are sorely lacking in. But if they called it into question because they had concerns about the Southern Poverty Law Center, I believe those concerns are very well placed. That organization, I compare it in my mind with the ACLU, two organizations that historically I always appreciated their objectivity and unfailing adherence to a principle, and I think both have evolved or devolved into political activist committees. And so I think the idea of having questions about a curriculum developed by Southern Poverty Law Center was something that should have been done before it was accepted. So I didn't have a problem with them saying, let's put on the brakes. Now they've decided, and we don't know what the vote is, the original vote to kill the program was 5-2. I haven't been able to find out what the vote was on rescinding it, and now they're going to go back and put those courses back in, which I think is the right thing to do. If it was done simply because a bunch of students wrote petitions, good luck with the school board on any of their next decisions.
Well, I disagree. Let me disagree
when
with
they
that.
have come up with a decision and students start sending petitions for it.
Let me disagree respectfully with that last point, and that is, I think the headline on this story is 3,000, and this is an old student activist talking, the headline is 3,000 students standing up for what they thought is right. I'm not going to get in the weeds about the school board and their judgment about this particular thing. I think it is such a refreshing thing that you've got, and again, forget about the specifics. What the kids in a country where democracy seems to be less valued all the time, making a stand for what they believe and being heard by the school board, and I think that's what we ought to be.
Well, democracy is what got the school board members on there, so if we're applauding democracy...
But no, I'm applauding the fact that students care enough and got involved, and good for them.
I was 59 years old, probably, before I learned about the Tulsa Uprising. That is shameful. And so if you are right, Joe, then certainly they did not do their due diligence, and they should have.
I would just say that going back to the original decision, I don't think it had anything to do with the poverty center or anything like that. And I think that was a ready excuse because they were following a line of thinking politically and socially right now, and it blew back in their face, and it was a little bit tougher. And I know 3,000 people got involved and all that, but I think probably about 3 very influential people who put some of these people on the school board gave them a call and said, like, you're out of line, and they fell back in line. So I don't think they saw the light. I don't think it had anything to do with the Southern Leadership Poverty Center. I think that they made a mistake based on their political and social feelings. I'm not going to bring race into it, but I do believe that played.
Well, I think they said early on, Alvin, that the Southern Poverty Law Center was an issue for them, and I agree with Joe on this.
You know what? I'm
not arguing with you. I'm just saying I don't.
They're bringing it back, but without that group, which is an activist group, and I don't think that schools should have curriculum that's written by activist groups. I'm not here to want the NRA.
The only thing that I question is, I always thought the ACLU and the Southern Poverty Law Center, I always thought they were activist groups.
Well, they are, but they're good.
Well,
I don't
they
think
are.
That's what
do you want your students' curriculum written by activist groups or by educators? I don't want my kids getting the history of the Constitution written by the NRA.
This whole myth, Alvin's right, the whole myth from the right, this is all CRT, which doesn't even exist in Missouri schools, the critical race theory, and the non-existent red herring. And Alvin's right, this is part of the culture war, and I'll stick to my guns that it's great that these kids made their stand, but yeah, they want us to talk about the, in general terms about this activist group. This is really about whether we're going to teach accurately the history of...
Exactly. Well, and I think that brings into question, when you involve the Southern Poverty Law Center, it brings in the accuracy question.
I don't think it does.
And I will go back to, I will stick by my guns on my first statement, said I thought the school board originally did the wrong thing.
Right.
Okay.
For a right
Gotta
reason.
move on. Thank you, Joe. Alvin, Reid, you had a front page story, I think. Lisa's the front and center on your website, on the superintendent of the Ferguson-Florissant School District. Dr. Joe Davis is concerned with the amount of fighting that's going on in the schools. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Games being canceled, the national or the state championship football game halted with 3.5 or so minutes to go in the game. But also earlier this year, because of fighting, Riverview Gardens decided to go virtual. We know the McClure High School teachers walked out in March because of too much fighting among the kids. So what did Dr. Davis say? What should be done about this fighting that's going on all over the area?
Okay, really great session. I went, I didn't know what really to expect. Very cordial, jam-packed, and people were, scores of people were on Zoom. And he just put it out there. He said, like, listen, no secret. I can't do this without you. Now, fighting is part of society, which is brought into the schools. Parents shared that. Joe Davis shared that. And one of the overwhelming things that was discussion was, is zero tolerance the way to go? And I find myself leaning, and I've often said this, every district is different. They have to come to whatever conclusion they can with how to stop this kind of thing, and it is a problem all over the region. But the zero tolerance, which I used to have zero tolerance for, I'm kind of moving the other way. Like, maybe you have to draw a line where, like, no, you can no longer go to school here. And I think that's what a lot of parents shared that night.
I agree, and I think to have such a response and to have so many people in attendance, that should make everybody feel very optimistic. But I think that the opinion of some people that we have to maybe have a cookie cutter or boutique school district approach. Discipline is discipline, and standards are standards, and the more we try to accommodate, okay, but these are Sagittarius with Aquarius rising, and I think we muddy the waters and we make it more difficult for kids to know what's expected of them.
And much like I like the structure of 3,000 kids kept making their views felt, I think Joe Davis did what more administrators need to do, which is to engage everybody in a really positive, I happen to agree with him substantively, but, and I think each school district does have to figure out, it's not cookie cutter, but he's doing the right, at the end of the day, they're going to have to figure this out, and they have to figure it out with the parents and with the kids and with the teachers. There's a lot of constituents here, and he's doing the right thing. by engaging them. And I don't, as I say, it sure makes sense to me. You got to do something that addresses this school district's needs.
Go ahead, John.
Well, at some point in time, there has to be a recognition of, there has to be an absolute. That at some point, these students who consistently disobey the rules can no longer go here. So I agree to where you can all approach it in a sort of a cookie cutter way. At the end of the day, there has to be a result of you misbehaving in school, fighting in school, and I sympathize with him where he's asking, I need parents to get involved. If we could get parents more involved, a lot of problems we had in society might have a different face on them. So his message is not lost, and it's a wonderful message. The thing is what I'm always afraid of is the parents who aren't parenting now aren't going to parent just because Dr. Davis said, I need your help.
Real quick, part of the problem that has arisen here lately is parents addressing the problems that their kid is having at school, i.e. the parent going to the bus
themselves
or the school, taking on the bully or whatever. And he said, like, we definitely can't have that.
No.
Like,
No.
Yeah.
Hey, next topic, Reid Hartmann in O'Fallon, Missouri. Police there are planning a huge 67-acre training facility that'll have canine instruction, a vehicle driving course, SWAT team instruction, as well as 2 firing ranges, one inside, one outside. The neighbors there are saying, we don't want to hear, bullets being fired, however worthy the practice. So what do you think about this one? Is that a good location for a training center?
I don't know the specifics of it. It's a NIMBY story. It's kind of interesting to see a NIMBY story be the concept of this major police training facility certainly would make sense in the abstract. And I wouldn't want to live next door to it. And just like a lot of people don't want to live next to a halfway house or the other things that people have in the NIMBY stories. I thought the story in the Post stood out. It was a good story because it was a NIMBY story saying, to the police, get off my lawn. It was like, which you just don't hear every day. And it was interesting. I mean, and I don't know the specifics, but no, I think most people don't really love the idea of the comforting sounds of gunshots across their backyard.
I think it's the dogs barking.
There's that too.
I think it showed the wonderful way we can all come together in the holiday season. That everybody feels the same about everything, really, when it comes down to being next door to me.
Right, exactly.
I love all these things: strip malls, rehabs, firing ranges. Just not around.
Yeah, cannabis retail. No, it's like a giant retailer distribution center. And
but with guns and barking
dogs and a retention pond for water training and that kind of thing. I think that everybody wants a tactically prepared, police force, but I think a lot of those police officers would have to ask themselves if this were their neighborhood.
Oh, good point.
Would they want, their children in the backyard?
Here's what we've got to do. The answer to NIMBY is if your neighborhood is picked for the recycling center, the police training center, the homeless shelter, or whatever, you get something that the rest of the people in the city don't. You get a swimming pool, you get an extra playground, you get a police substation.
I agree with that.
Something, some carrot that makes it worth your while. And it's so simple. We should be doing that with homeless shelters in the city.
Well, and let me draw a distinction.
Gosh, I hate to give you credit at the end of the year, but that is a really
good idea. It's a good idea, but let me say this.
And we'll take you to the
government boondoggle.
Yeah, well, no, and Charlie, but I will say this real quickly, and that is that it's not exactly the same. In this case, it seems obvious to me that this kind of a mega facility has to be remote enough because of its nature. Whereas, for example, something for the unhoused, something for the, a halfway house, they, by definition, need to be part of a community. So it's not the same thing.
Ray, I want to ask you. No, I don't. I want to ask Joe, on the other hand, about a couple of things going on in the city right now. One, last year, tragically, 2 people were killed crossing Chippewa at Ted Drew's, one of our top tourist attractions. Turns out in early December, a woman was hit by a car. your paper has raised the question, okay, where's the crosswalk that was promised, 18 months ago, whatever the case. Then your paper also had a story on a poor guy who bought a dilapidated property in the city for $20,000. He spent his own money to rehab it, only to find that the deed was never processed and the home was sold from under him to an Israeli couple, as it turns out. So now he's put all sorts of money into a home that he does not own. What's going on in the city of St. Louis?
It's the city of St. Louis. I mean, and I always fall back on what's a variant of Occam's razor that kind of goes, never attribute to evil what can be explained by stupidity. And that's how cities work, because like this guy with the house is one of these things. It's like a nightmare story. You buy the house, 20 grand, you spend about $4,000 or $5,000 in fixing it up, and either the recorder of deeds, he didn't get the right message, the sheriff didn't get the right message, they never filed the paperwork. So the people who own the house went, oh, we'll sell it to these people. So I don't know this company, but it seems like there was no malice intended by this company. They're like, oh, we can sell this, here you go, and sold it. This guy's like, you just sold my house. The city just needs to make it right. It's just like, at some point in time, instead of cities trying to figure out convenient excuses, and God, please don't use COVID anymore. That's gone. Stop with any of that. And you need to put the crosswalk in. Just get it done.
Well,
and the same with this guy's house. Do whatever it takes. The city needs to make him whole. They need to fix whatever they need to do. And somebody in the city needs to come out and say, this is my fault because this was my office and we're going to fix it. But instead it's like, well, I didn't get the notice. I didn't get the email. He didn't do a thing. Just fix it. Just, stand up. Take the blame.
But the sheriff's department is responsible for the auctions, correct? They're responsible for those auctions.
Yes.
Sheriff Betts said that, it goes back to a story that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, which was Darling Green's brand new computer system. So if it's causing that kind of trouble, then is the computer system, is it just sort of like, oh, it's the computer system, or is it being addressed?
Well, they say it's being addressed.
It's being addressed, but by that,
Yeah, I don't know. I will say this. The crosswalk, I don't get that because I just think like, man, there's enough powerful politicians around there that they get that done. I don't know what's holding that up, but I'm not going to put that off on bureaucracy. I'm going to put that off on politickery or whatever, okay? But recording deeds, I buy something, a piece of land. I'm sorry. I don't want to sound like Marshall Dillon, but hey, a man bought a piece of land and then you sold it. Right. Who's responsible? I mean, within an hour of me buying a property, that should be... He owns that property. We can't have this. I mean, there's a lot of things we can't have, obviously. And I'm not.
Is it because we have required, until recently, employees of the city to live in the city? And with a declining population, you just have fewer workers
I don't
in
think
a lot of these departments.
I don't think so. Let me
because the comptroller's office is understaffed, as your paper has reported.
But their paper's understaffed too. Everybody's understaffed. And the bottom line is this: we're near, I guess, what Martin would call at the end of our 37th season.
That's correct.
This strikes me as a story that is timeless, that we could have had the same conversation in 1987 about something, and I bet we did. This story it's the gift that keeps on giving.
But back in 1987, you weren't looking at a pile of money that were more concerned about gaining interest from the pile of money than we are putting it to work.
We were just sad that the big red had left.
But I mean, that comes in, and I think Ray's point is well taken. And I think I guess why I bristle at references to progressive politics. This really goes back to the Who. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
That's right.
But it's like, no, we have progressive ideas, but you still apparently can't get a deed filed.
Right.
Great, you've got some big ideas. You're not taking care of the basic business, and the city has always had problems with bureaucracy, politocracy, which is a good word.
I like that.
I'm glad you could get. But in the case of this guy, fix his deed. Just fix his deed.
Absolutely.
Wendy Wiese, I want to ask you about the Cotton Bowl, Mizzou up against Ohio State tomorrow night. Yeah, you're wearing the colors, M-I-Z.
COU.
And tomorrow night, the quarterback for Ohio State won't be there. Kyle McCord has already transferred to Syracuse.
I know.
And there's questions about other players who are either not going to play because they don't want to get injured before the NFL draft, or they've transferred to other schools. That might be happening at Mizzou as well. Doesn't that diminish the importance of this big bowl game?
No, it doesn't. Anything that makes it easier for Mizzou to win, get the W, is fine with me. It's a rapidly changing world. I can see why the players, if they are about to enter into the NFL draft, because that would be the game where they have an ACL injury or something like that, and it would put them out and wreck their whole whatever. But no, I wish I could get excited about who's not going to be playing. I'm just excited that Mizzou is there, and I think they're going to win.
Well, I hope so. And I agree with Wendy. And I'm a little concerned with my alma mater, Mizzou, in that we've got one kid, Rick, one of our top key quarterbacks, is going to go halfway, probably is projected to be 15th or 16th, even in the first round of the draft. And they are saying he has an undisclosed injury, Rickstraw, I think it is, Ernie Rickstraw. And I mean, I have a hard time believing that, but I think that he has absolutely every right for the same reason a lot of first-round draft choices, to not want to risk injury that could cost him unrecoverable millions. You can't blame the kid for that.
But what about
you just can't.
Playing with your teammates? Yeah, don't you owe them anything?
No.
Don't you owe your school?
No.
Where is it where people felt that they were part of something bigger than themselves?
The kid at Ohio State transferred,
You're the sports columnist for the American.
I've really come like 180 on this, because when this really first started, it bugged me. But I do understand that, okay, you've got a future in playing ball. But I can tell you this, for everybody out there, when I was at KU when I was in school, we went to the 1981 Hall of Fame Bowl. I still have my watch. I still have all of that. It really meant something to me. I went out to Phoenix for our bowl game. We must have had 15,000 people there. And it's a great experience. It does not dim the entire 4 or 5 days that those kids are out there. It's still special. It's still a special thing. We won. I'm very, very happy. I mean, I was ecstatic, but it doesn't diminish anything, because the kids playing and the boosters going really, really feel it.
We have time for one more topic in 2023. The St. Louis American has just announced its Person of the Year, and he or she is
Gabe Gore. Gabe Gore, great job, and came through. Actually, was still basically fundamentally unknown at this time last year, but his job in the circuit attorney's office would be one that I guess would get the deeds filed and just come on, step in and say, like, all right, we're going to do X, Y, Z, and we're going to do it why, when, and how. So let's just do that. And I think St. Louis
get the job done.
Get the job. Well done.
I agree. First of all, it's hard to argue. He could almost be a consensus choice this year. He's done. He didn't have a big bar to follow, but yeah, I got another one and this is not diminishing Gabe Gore. I'd like to throw out a name, and it's a name you don't know him. His name is Matthew Brennan, and he is a guy who was making $100,000 in a pretty easy job as the Civilian Oversight Commissioner, appointed by Mayor Jones. And he did something that I think is just remarkable, and that is purely on principle. He wasn't pressured out. He walked away, and he has set in motion at least an understanding that the jail oversight, all the talk was just that talk. And here's one guy walking, I just can't imagine anybody else doing this. He was an FBI guy for 20 years, and he was deemed untrained by the bureaucracy to do the oversight job. And he said, you know what? I don't want to be associated with this because I don't want there to be any appearance that we're doing oversight when the administration wasn't. Yeah. And I say good for him.
Yeah, so quitting Yeah.
No,
Quitters.
no.
Quitters.
I think he did. I think he did the right thing because you
Well, they
look
do
at
call it
guys,
Donnybrook.
you don't see that kind of principle.
Very well, very well.
You
Can I throw
don't
a
see
quick
that kind
one
of
in?
principle.
You know, there hasn't ever been basketball in Forest Park. So Eric Newman and his wife Peggy have given the money for the basketball courses to start it. It's in honor of their grandson, Nicholas Booker, who tragically died from an asthma attack when he was a freshman at Fordham University. And I want to give credit to the Newmans, as well as the mayor, Tashara Jones, and Greg Hayes of the Parks Department, and Leslie Hofarth of Forest Park Forever, because this year we're going to have basketball, a great sport, as we all know, in the city that, or at least the region that gave the world Jason Tatum.
And I can't remember another gentleman's name, but he was behind really the fundraising kind of part of it.
Good.
Gosh, I'm sorry, I can't.
We'll get it next time.
We'll get it next time. But no, that's good, Charlie.
That's good.
Very good.
Anybody?
Good for everybody. I was Gabe Gore.
I'm in the Gabe Gore.
Yeah, I'm in the Gabe Gore camp.
I'm with Gabe Cord, too.
Yeah, I mean,
I am too.
Everybody.
I think we all are. I say consensus.
Yeah.
Hey, don't forget, everybody, watch the credits. They're going to be great because you'll hear the
Maestro.
music of Leonard Bernstein, which is also at the end of the Maestro movie. Let's find out what people can do if they want to complain about us, which is a popular activity in St. Louis. You can write 9PBS 3655 Olive Street, St. Louis, Missouri 63108. We love those emails, Donnybrook at 9pbs.org. And if you're on Thread or X, use hashtag DonnybrookSTL. Call the 9 line at 314-512-9094. And make sure you listen to us on your favorite podcast source. Why, that would be Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, or Google Play. Thanks so much to Joe Holleman for sitting in for Bill, who will be back next week at this time. This completes our 37th year on 9PBS. Thank you so much, 9PBS, and thank you. Have a great, happy New Year, everybody.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.